We knew COVID was serious. I think you could tell by the magnitude. You know, when they shut down the NCAA tournament, you know it's a big deal. And I do remember, though, saying in my very first public address that we had to have parallel paths. And what I meant by that was, you know, the ability to put public safety first, but also not completely shut down our economy.
I don't accept the fact that folks say that if we reopen pieces of our economy that we have blood on our hands. I do care deeply about the lives of everyone, and that means the livelihoods, and that means the literal lives and well-being of all our citizens.
But also as mayor, we were getting calls that a governor or a president or even a senator wasn't getting. You know, when I had working moms and their kids weren't in school and their business was shut down and they can't get a hold of the unemployment office and they're crying on the phone, there was a charge to do something. And they said, I need your help. You know, when they look to their government and say, I need you to do something, it hits different and it feels different. And so I was such an aggressive advocate for reopening, but I never wanted to do it recklessly. I never wanted it to be a free-for-all, but we did push hard and we pushed early before anybody else would.
Well, so far, and thanks for having me on, Neil, it's been tremendous. Folks in my community have asked me to advocate on their behalf. I appreciate the president passing some control down to governors, but I think it's important that in areas like mine, we're a small community in southeastern Kentucky, about an hour south of Lexington and a couple hours from Churchill Downs where the Derby's held. We want to make decisions on what's best for our folks and our businesses.
Well, I knew if it was just me, it wouldn't mean anything. And so I gathered a coalition of mayors, and you know, we probably had close to 40 mayors sign on to these letters. We created plans that we felt like could safely reopen. The first one was chiropractic care, optometry care, and dental care. You know, if you can't go to one of these doctor's offices, but you could still go to a liquor store, it just seemed insane. And so we advocated the governor to reopen those. They did. We didn't ever hear back from his office, but they opened those, and that's all we cared about. About a month later, before Memorial Day, you know, we're living in the heart of tourism country, and our restaurants were still shuttered. And I was hearing from these business owners saying, Alan, we won't make it. You know, we will never reopen. And so I gathered that group of mayors again and said, hey, let's come up with a plan. We did that, we submitted it. Again, didn't hear anything, but thankfully, about a week later, the state reopened some restaurants and some other pieces of our hospitality industry. And I'm thankful for that advocacy. I know that there's some businesses that are open today that without that probably wouldn't be.
Some of our challenges and frustrations have been that not only is it too slow, it has been disproportionate. We still don't have childcare open for our working families here on Main Street, and it's frustrating when our working class Kentuckians want to get back to work and they can't because they don't have anywhere to safely send their kids. And so that's been a big piece of our advocacy.
And I think we were a pioneer during COVID. Once we felt like we had the data and the information at hand, we were aggressive to get it out there. And you know, it let me know too that the governor has a big hand in what goes on in every single community. I wanted more communication to local leaders. I wanted more local control at that time. And you know, the feedback that I was getting was from somebody that said, you know, we want a governor who has business experience, that knows what it's like on this side, not just somebody that sees everything through the lens of government.
All right, everyone, welcome to the latest edition of Facebook Live as we answer questions that have come in on keckforkentucky.com, as we share some of our vision, as we talk about what has been going on the campaign trail. I will first say that I apologize. Yesterday afternoon, I got hit by the allergy bus and could barely open this eye, sneezing fits, sound like crap. So I appreciate you all bearing with me tonight. I'd say that many of you are dealing with those same challenges as well. Hi, Miss Libby. Great Zooming with you all earlier. We had a pretty cool Zoom tonight. Some friends from West Kentucky and other areas hosted a Zoom. It's another way folks can get involved. So if you want to help spread the word, I'd encourage you to do so. You can host a Zoom. But I'm going to jump in quick tonight. We've had a busy day, to say the least. Started early, just getting back in town. And so we've got a pretty lengthy list of questions. And I'm going to start with Esta W. She said, I'm assuming you are a Republican. I am. Do you have plans to fix the teachers' problem that our governor messed up? I don't know exactly which problem you mean, Esta, but we absolutely have education as a pillar in our platform. And, you know, we want to quit teaching to the test so much. We're for school choice, but adamantly behind our school teachers. I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. We want to get to our kids sooner. You know, I think the statistics are conclusive that money spent on our kids earlier produces better outcomes, and there's a lot of data to back that up. Appreciate those that keep tuning in and watching. You know, Facebook has an interesting way of stifling these things. You've probably heard me say that when we were just running for mayor, the amount of traction and volume that these were getting was exponential, and so we're trying to fight against that. So I'd encourage you to share these. Let's make sure we push back, if you will, against these algorithms, push back against social media throttling, I think, what's likely Republican candidates. But we're just going to keep marching. I'm grateful. I always say whether there's 220 or 200, we're going to take it seriously and honor you and your time, so we want to do that tonight as well. Billy M. says, as a veteran and a Christian, how do you feel about the Second Amendment and abortion? Are you running as a Republican or Democrat? I'm not sure I noticed that. I'll answer the second question first. I'm a Republican. Thank you for your service, Billy. I appreciate that. As a veteran, we're grateful. The Second Amendment, I've said often that if we don't protect it, and our right to bear arms and protect ourselves, then so many of our other rights will be infringed upon. And so I'm adamantly supportive of 2A, and I think that we all need to be. As far as abortion, you know, I'm a pro-life candidate. I'm unapologetically so. We've talked about that throughout these lives, and we'll continue to. Thank you for your questions. Eric says, for a state with lottery, horse racing, and slot machines, why will my Republican majority not legalize sports gaming? Horse money seems to control everything. I'm in agreement with you on this one, Eric. I'm in support of sports gaming. Less to do with, you know, the fact that I've said if I could build a Kentucky with or without gaming of any kind, I would say it's probably better for society to not have it. But since we already have all those other things, as somebody who believes in liberty, I would have legalized sports gaming. I would encourage folks to do it responsibly. I would put in some measures to keep folks from using credit cards or going into debt to do it, but I do think it should be legal. Lacey says she works in the Pulaski County School District. Her kids go to Pulaski County Schools, as she did. Go Maroons, I guess, for you. Go Jumpers for me, but love a question from somebody here at home. My question is, what are the top 3 things you plan to reform and work towards as education? I did read earlier, she offered some suggestions. I appreciate those suggestions, Lacey. I'm going to take those to heart. I'm going to answer your question, though. You know, the first thing I would go back to is not forcing teachers to teach to the test. I think we put an unnecessary precedent or priority on these standardized tests. I hear it from teachers all the time that's regrettable. The second thing is I would really encourage increased pay, but also increased student support personnel. I think we need to get some folks into the schools to help with some of the mental health and behavioral challenges that our teachers are faced with. I think that'll improve teacher morale. I also think it'll improve longevity and quality. That's a big one. And then, as I mentioned, I think we need to get to our kids sooner. So early childhood education. Last thing I'd say twice now is that I think student teaching should be paid. We need to make sure that we can attract our best and brightest into the classroom. Judy says, why can't I look at your platform without giving you my email? You can. If you just go to our website, it might not be in the booklet form, but if you go to issues, that's the platform in full. And then she says, are you pro-life or anti-abortion? There's a difference. It gives me a website. I would argue both. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. You know, I've said that I want Kentucky to be the most pro-life, but also pro-family state in the country. We need to go further and talk about things that go beyond birth to make sure that our families get off to a great start. And so I'm pro-life and anti-abortion. Lynn T says, Mayor Keck, thanks for your vision in our small group in Princeton. Hey, Lynn, good to hear from you. We're prayerfully considering inviting a group of 25 to 30 people to join with us in a growing movement to see you elected. Well, thank you for that. We would appreciate any assistance or guidance you can offer. As you recall, referred to you to Mike Pompeo's book. I do remember, absolutely. I've taken the liberty of asking him to endorse. I did see that. I apologize I haven't followed up yet. I did see that. Thank you so much. He says, we're praying for you, your family, and your team. Really appreciate it, Lynn. Because of you all, we did add Pray for Alan as a part of the volunteer page. I thought it was a tremendous idea from you and your wife. And I think that folks that do believe in the power of prayer, I would welcome and appreciate prayer for me and my family and our team, but also the race in general. Lord's will be done for Kentucky, and the fact that you're willing to volunteer with your time and pray means a lot to me. I appreciate it. Jack C. says, am I pro-life? Absolutely, as we just answered. Appreciate that. Doris M. says, what's going on with the Stillhouse in Somerset? Seems like the building has stopped. It certainly appears to be a pause, Doris. There's been some supply chain challenges for sure with kitchen equipment. It looks like the restaurant's pretty close to done. I know they're a restaurant in Florida. The busiest time of the year is the winter, and so due to a lot of that training, I think they're trying to be strategic about when they open up here. I don't have an exact time, but I will say the building's gorgeous and it's an upgrade. Anna H. says, do you have a plan to stand up to KEA and improve education? If so, how? Also, will you stand against federal overreach like Governor DeSantis? Yeah, one of the big things is we can be pro-teacher and anti-union. I think that's important. The other piece is so often some of the negatives that are happening in our schools might be more union-focused or administrative-focused instead of teacher-focused. So I think just acknowledging that's a big deal, standing firm on some of those principles, making sure our teachers know that we have their back, but also are still going to stand up for parental rights and involvement. I think the left wants those to be mutually exclusive. I don't believe that. Will you stand up to federal overreach like Governor DeSantis? Anna, we will. But for us to truly stand up, we need to get our fiscal house in order. Right now, Kentucky is one of the most, if not the most, dependent on federal money of any state in America. I'm going to say that again. Kentucky is one of, if not the most, dependent on federal money of any state in America. So for us to stand up, Anna, we've got to get our fiscal house in order. Governor DeSantis gets to do that because Florida, while not probably completely self-sufficient, is a lot more so than Kentucky. And so we'll push back, but we're so dependent on their money, we're kind of beholden to them to a degree. And so I want to grow. I want to get our own fiscal house in order, and then we'll absolutely push back where we see fit. Elizabeth G. says, Dear Mayor Keck, I've recently moved from Florida, and that's where I grew up. I helped start Friends of Strays to stop feral cats from reproducing by doing the catch, spray, neuter shots, and release. I'm trying to work with our mayor here in Columbia to see what kind of funding is available. Truthfully, I'm appalled at the abuse of animals in this part of the state, and it's only part I've witnessed in the last few years, but I've already incurred cruelty that has left me scared again. I did get involved with a few great ladies and were able to save a few dogs. Puppy mills have got to stop. I feel God sent me here for this reason, but I need funds and public officials to get involved. Animals are God's creatures, and I see them abused as deplorable, and I look forward to your response. We have a really active group here at our animal shelter. And our Humane Society. The Humane Society has done tremendous work on exactly what you're talking about with feral cats. Specific to funding, that'll require me to do a little bit more research, Elizabeth. I appreciate your passion for animals. I know so many who share that deep-hearted passion. My brother, I always call him Ms. Doolittle. He and his wife, Brooke, they've got a small petting zoo at their house. Somehow I've added a stray cat and a dog to my house as well. So I might not share your passion at the same level, but I do understand it and appreciate it. And I'll try to, hopefully some of my team's watching to help me here. I will try to follow up with a more specific answer to you directly. Dave N. and Leela H., both from KFTC. They're asking about a candidate survey. I have gotten your emails. I do intend to respond. And so they've asked, can we count on you to respond? I hope we can, Dave and Layla. James B. says, what would you do as governor of Kentucky to stop the federal government and others from spraying chemicals and other toxins in the air we live in. Just look up any day and see the chemtrails. Not too long ago, it was called conspiracy theory, but now the former director of the CIA admitted. How do you intend to protect the Kentucky environment? Really good question, James, and it's a subject that I don't have intimate knowledge on. And so before I give an answer or a promise, I'm just going to tell you it's going to require some careful study for me and some learning, at which point then hopefully I can give you a response that you deserve. Tyler L. says, what all do you stand for, and how would voting for you benefit Kentucky instead of voting for another Republican? Well, I stand for a lot. I'd encourage you to go to keckforkentucky.com, take a look at our platform, specifically as a Christian and a proud American Kentuckian. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I think, is foundational for society. And I believe in family. I believe that the two greatest societal ills in our country right now are that we no longer fear God and the breakdown of the family. And so, all that I'm pushing for are to help remedy some of those things. What I'd tell you, Tyler, is voting for me to benefit Kentucky is we have a proven track record as a change agent. I've done it in my private life, and now we're doing it in my public life as the CEO of Somerset, the mayor of Somerset. So a vote for me is a vote for change and a vote for progress. And that's not to say that others aren't quality people, but the fruit of our experience is unique in this race, and I think can be transformational. I don't know how to pronounce this next name. Dale, maybe? Dale M., good afternoon. Thank you for running. As governor, what's your policy stance on? And it looks like we've got 7 different questions. Illegal immigrants in Kentucky coming across our southern border. We certainly need to solve our southern border crisis. I think we've had a porous border for far too long. I fully support legal immigration, but stand against illegal. China buying up farmland. Will you vow to ensure it does not happen in Kentucky? And if it already has, what's the plan to get our land back? Yeah, I think the biggest distinction there is the difference between the Chinese Communist Party and Chinese citizens. And so, we don't want the Chinese government buying up farmland. There's no question about that. If they already have it, we're going to have to look into exactly how that could be remedied. I don't know of that in Kentucky, but I don't want to say that it hasn't happened. So that's something we'll look into. What's your stance on CRT being taught in school, and what's the plan to ensure it doesn't take place? I've said multiple times, Dale, that I don't think it has any place in our K through 12 school system. I think most of the legislature agrees with me, and they're working to ensure that it's not. What's your stance on freedom of speech, Second Amendment, mandating medical procedures, vaccinations? Again, the Second Amendment's there to protect the rest of them. Freedom of speech and religious liberty are why our country is so special. It's what made this experiment so beautiful, and it absolutely has to be protected. And mandating medical procedures, again, I don't know exactly what you speak of, but I'd have a hard time believing that I'd ever support that. Vaccinations is a really complex and complicated one. I mean, we've seen vaccinations rid the world nearly of polio and many other diseases. And so I think there's a place for it. After extensive long-term study, I was against mandatory COVID vaccinations because I didn't think we had that time. And I've since been proven right. I encouraged folks that felt needed to get it to do it, but I never was for mandatory. In fact, again, I can speak from experience. We had an instance where a lot of our EMS personnel were afraid they were going to be forced to because we get some federal funding through Medicare reimbursement. And, we said we weren't going to do that. Those men and women were caring for patients for over a year without a vaccination. It certainly didn't seem fair to mandate it, and we didn't. Thoughts on government wasteful spending and how to curtail it? Look, we need to treat the money like it's our own, like it's a business, carefully, preciously, understanding that it's not mine, it's not the government, it's yours, and we need to be good stewards of it. God says he's not going to bless you with a lot unless you manage a little, and I think we need to treat government resources the same. Origins of COVID-19, should China be held accountable? Look, that's a fair question. At this point, I don't think it's one that the Kentucky governor is going to have a lot of voice in. I think it's becoming more and more conclusive that it started over there in a lab. I know there's friends in the House of Representatives in D.C. that are going to continue to look into that. I hope they do. If it looked like it was purposeful at any level, certainly there should be some accountability and some consequence. Thoughts on the Ukraine war and defending Taiwan? Thank you so much. Have a great day. The Ukraine war has gotten just shockingly complicated. I think that, Putin's a thug and Russia's certainly not our friend, but at the same time, sending billions of dollars of blank checks to Ukraine needs to have its limits. There needs to be an end game and an understanding, and then also some oversight on where that money's being used. We wouldn't send that anywhere in America without clear oversight. And so I'm very concerned about the level of funding and the lack of accountability. And then, Taiwan is incredibly critical for a lot of our supply chain, for a lot of the things that we're dependent on. And so, I think that the defense of them is going to be incumbent on us, and China would like for that not to happen. But again, those are big national issues. I appreciate you asking. I want to be a faithful participant, but I try to pivot back to the things that the Kentucky governor will have clear role on outside of perhaps perspective or a mouthpiece. And those are big national issues. But again, I wanted to honor you with an answer. Joder says, "What's your stance on the legalization of medical and recreational cannabis?" So I've come out in support of medical marijuana, but I'm against recreational. And, I'm one of the unique Republicans that is for medical, but again, the data that I have seen supports it. I think it's safer, it's less addictive, it's more natural than opioids that we prescribe so often and so freely. And so, for medicinal uses, prescribed and regulated properly, I think it can have tremendous benefits for a select group of people. My concern about recreational is the free-for-all that can become, especially in our youth, and I don't think Kentucky's ready for that. I don't think they want it. The majority of Kentuckians I hear support medical, but do not support recreational. Mary C. says, "Are you a Republican who stands for common sense policies?" Absolutely. I think that I'm pretty unique in this race for being a common sense conservative, somebody that's practical, somebody that believes in getting things done, that's not a cookie cutter Republican, that will stand firm on what I believe is what's best for Kentucky. And so, I'm going to put those policies into practice should I be elected governor. Last question, it looks like, and then I might dive into one or two, although maybe not. So Robin B. says, "Can you tell me if you believe the election machines are safe and secure? Do you believe recent 2020 and 2022 elections had been manipulated?" I can tell you they're secure in Kentucky. I think if you go back and look at the numbers when we've had questions and they went back for recounts, 99.99% accurate here in Kentucky. I don't think that's been the case in some other states. I mean, it certainly looks like there's been some nefarious activity. To what extent, I'm not sure. I think that Secretary Adams, by and large, has done a really good job of making it harder to cheat and easier to vote. I like the paper trail. I think it's great that you put the paper in there, and in the event of a recount, you've got that. Going fully digital is not something I'd support. I like the limited early voting. I think that it was good policy to extend it a couple days, but I don't think it should be a month or 2 months. And I think we need some accountability on absentee, which again in Kentucky we have. And so we should be a model. We know our election results the night of, and I think states should look to us and follow that. Let's see. Got through it with no sneezes. That's a blessing. Hunter, I appreciate it, man. We're looking forward to the town hall next week, too. Thanks for taking part. We got people stepping up all over the state. That's what's cool, is there's some real momentum growing behind us. We knew it was going to be an uphill battle when we started, but, we're here for the fight. We're here for the battle, if you will. We're having a blast. People told me how miserable statewide campaigns are, and I don't see that at all. I miss my wife, miss my kids, but I absolutely love getting to travel the state, share the Somerset story, share the Somerset success, talk about my vision for Kentucky, and listen to you all. Listen to the citizens of the Commonwealth about what's important to you, what you care about, what you're concerned about. And I always say, look, if you're counting down the days or you're miserable doing this, you're in the wrong business. And that's not us. I'm energized every day by getting to hear from you all and getting to share our vision, and look forward to continuing to do it. Any other thoughts or questions from those tuning in online? I don't know if anybody's tracking. We're also doing this on Instagram and Twitter, and so I'm watching the questions that come in on Facebook. If we have some on there, we'll try to double back and get to them. Frank Underwood or Josiah Bartlett? Definitely Bartlett. I'm not as smart as Bartlett, but I love the West Wing. Underwood was a dude, but he was pretty corrupt. I think Josiah had a strong moral compass. For those that don't know, that's the president out of House of Cards or West Wing. If you're watching, West Wing's an amazing show. You should tune in sometime. I tune in often. It's on HBO Max. All right, folks. Well, I'm going to set the iPad down, and I'll close with a little nugget of gratitude. Just, again, thanking those that are tuning in, taking a part of the process. This is hard. You got a lot of quality people in this race. I don't view them as opponents. I view them as people that are applying for the same job in a very public way. And so we're going to share our fruit, share our vision, try to explain to the state why we think our candidacy is unique, with authenticity, with our executive experience, and with our unique vision, our ability to bring people together while still standing on principle and conviction. And so thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for being an active participant, active citizen. I hope you all have a great day tomorrow, Friday, a great weekend. Look forward to talking to y'all soon. Thanks, and God bless.